Hello and welcome to Property Mastermind podcast, episode 154. Today we are talking the future of property development. What a great episode we have in store for you. We're going to be talking about what's working, what's not, what you should be doing, thinking toward the future, and possibly how AI fits in. Great episode. You're going to want to listen. Jump on in to episode 154. Hello, episode 154. Welcome, Hilary Sexton, Bob Anderson. Thanks, Bob.
You're welcome.
You're welcome. Oh, that's good. It's not that hard to get you into the podcast room. I just say, Bob, come sit down. We're going to do a podcast.
Yep, I do as I'm told.
Yeah. Well, not always. But anyway, speaking of Bob not doing what he's told, he looks a bit grumpy, you may notice. Bob's had a bit of an incident with not doing due diligence, I would say.
Oh, fair go.
Fair go.
There's a limit to how much you can do.
We moved and he went to the
Department of Transport
to change the license, the information over,
Yeah.
and checked with the lady, is this all I need to do? And she said, yes. It wasn't. And then we've ended up with some huge fines that are multiplied because we didn't know we got them. And they're huge. We're talking huge, as in huge. Oh.
Huge.
So anyway, he's a little bit grumpy because he's having to deal with it and we're all taking hits everywhere.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. What do you do?
I don't know, Bob. I think maybe
given up.
You've given up now.
No, I haven't given up.
You haven't? Oh, you haven't given up?
No, but I will shortly.
Because we asked the lady. That's so bad.
Yeah.
Never trust what somebody says. Do your own due diligence. Then that's where it leads into property development.
Okay.
Before we kick into that, Bob, giving away the book to Justin Kelly.
Oh.
All right, Justin, this is in the post to you. You will have it in a day or two. Look forward to meeting you soon. And while we're on meeting you soon, I noticed that our weekly email, or one of them, has gone out early this week. And Bob, it's your thumb rule.
Oh, okay.
So if you're not on our email database, you might want to check that one out. Bob gives away a really good thumb rule to know how much money you need for property development.
Yeah, how much money you need to put into a deal.
Yes.
Into a project. Quick thumb rule.
Quick thumb rule. So anyway, have a look on our website, sign up for that. And also, if you want to learn more about how to put deals together, we have, or even how property development, the process works, and you're new to property development, we've got our free masterclass this Saturday from 9 to 1. So there'll be a link below. Please register. You'll be getting it just in the nick of time, and it will be well worth coming along to. Anyway, now let's get started on the real meaty stuff, Bob.
Yeah. The future of property development.
Yeah, the future.
Yeah. So.
Well, okay. Well, when you did it, what was your first development?
I renovated it. Some people think I'm so old that I renovated a cave.
Oh, really?
That's not true.
No. You didn't renovate a cave?
No, I didn't renovate a cave.
Well, on your horse and cart with your chisel and hammer?
Yeah. No, hunting saber-toothed tigers and things like that.
Okay.
No, I didn't. No.
It was just after those times.
Yeah, it was a 4-lot subdivision, actually, with no money of my own.
Oh, there we go, talking joint ventures all over again. And, sort of everyone sharing the love with the deal. But if we look at the future, we're going to cover especially scarcity, or when I say scarcity, meaning what's working right now, what developers and new developers should be thinking about when they're going into property development. And Bob, what are some of the things that come to mind when I say that?
Well, when you're talking about property development, what do we do as property developers? What we're really doing is we're creating housing. We're creating dwellings for people to live in. Even if you're a land subdivider and you're just doing a subdivision, somebody's going to buy the block of land and build on it. Okay, so everything's going to end up as a dwelling. And nationally, we're short of dwellings by a long way. And the government's got a couple of ideas that they think might help. But
what are your thoughts on that?
Touch the surface maybe.
What are their ideas that they believe might help?
It's a lot about public housing for a start. And most people don't necessarily want to live in public housing, although there's certainly some that need it. And that's fine. It's good to look after that bottom end of the market. But as developers, there's no profit there anyway. So, good luck government, go and fill that in, and that'll be great. But they're not going to get the numbers that they're chasing at all. And it's growing every day. More and more people need housing, natural population growth, a lot of overseas migration, huge numbers that transfers into dwellings, whether they rent or whether they eventually buy, which most of them will, we're just short, and we've been short for so long. So we've got to do our part as property developers and produce more product, more housing. So, yeah, it has a future. But it has to happen.
Yes.
And, of course, the big end of town, the big guys, the big developers, the Mirvacs and the like, well, they'll continue to do their big projects. But
they're not interested in the small stuff.
Well, they don't. They don't want to do the small projects. They don't want to necessarily be in the sort of infill areas where typically the smaller developers want to be. So it's up to us, the smaller to medium type developers, right? Even building something as simple as a duplex is adding to it. Could be a 4-pack, 6-pack, but medium size developers maybe up to 10, 20. But there's a lot of capacity that we have to fill.
So, Bob, when you're talking that there is a requirement, so the future for property developers is we are required, we're needed.
Definitely.
But right now, I wrote down the word scarcity.
Yeah.
Because it is a little bit more difficult right now to find sites that do work. What's your
not everywhere works at the moment.
Exactly.
Not every suburb in every city, shall we say, projects stack up. At the moment, like for instance, like we haven't done any apartments for quite a while. It's hard to make small apartment projects stack up because of the build cost. The build cost on apartments is very high.
Why is that?
And because of the type of construction, it's heavy construction.
Right.
It's block and slab. It's there's a lot of strength that goes into apartments. We call it block and slab because it's heavy block, it's concrete slab, it's very heavy construction. It's just simply expensive. It's one on top of the other on top of the other. So everything about it's expensive. Very hard to stack up small apartment projects. Some of the big guys who...
When you say small, what numbers are you thinking up to?
10, 12,
Yeah, okay.
A lot of the big developers, of course, around the cities are doing, 10, 20, 30-story buildings. So there's economies of scale there. They're getting a lot out of the land. The land content, in other words, the dollar per apartment of the land can be quite small on a large apartment block. You could have, 200 apartments sitting on a 1,200 square metre lot.
Yeah.
And so that can that land component being so small, you can get away with the economies of scale on the construction as well, which, you do get over 200 units or 100 units. So some of the bigger projects are working for the bigger developers, but it's not at the moment particularly profitable for small developers, apartments. But, most of the time we're looking at, townhouses, we're looking at, all the way down to duplexes, subdivisions of land where houses eventually get built. And that's what we're looking at as smaller developers. So just sort of probably drop apartments off.
Yeah.
And do what we do the best.
And so, Bob, when you said not every area stacks up right now, where do you see that getting better and sort of rectifying and becoming a little bit more so they're less scarce? What's the opposite of that? What's the word I'm after here?
Well, we're still in the last throes of the effects of COVID, even though we don't like talking about that.
Are we talking about with interest rates or financially, or what are we talking about there?
Just what we went through post-COVID. We went through the big boom. We had a slight correction. Then
sale prices.
Of sale prices, but sale prices were up. We had all those huge increases in construction costs, and now that's settled down a lot. We've had a year of last year of interest rate increases. So we went through a lot of ups and downs. It was quite turvy. It has settled down a lot, of course. Interest rates leveled out. They're showing signs, not immediately, but that'll trickle back a bit. Bill costs have leveled out. All the big quantity surveying firms are saying maybe about 4% per annum is what bill costs are going to go up, which is pretty much, it used to be 3%, pretty regularly. So it's hardly changed. So a lot of these things have smoothed out. But what we're still seeing the final effects of is that the end values.
Because we had that massive jump and then they had to correct. And
the correction was only not big in compared to how much they went up.
compared.
But built
Don't you mean in comparison?
in comparison, that'll do. But then following at the same time and following on that was huge increases in build costs.
Yes.
So at the moment, some areas haven't completely absorbed those build costs. And in order to do that, now that the build costs have levelled out and now that interest rates have levelled out and have for a little while now, we just need in some areas, well, generally values are going to go up as they do. And every indicator is that values will continue to go up. But in some areas, it's going to be quicker than others. Some areas, it's already reached that equilibrium, and that's the areas where deals stack up and you can get the correct profit margin. Some other areas still need those sale prices to lift a bit further, and then those margins will return.
So, Bob, how do you see this moving forward? What's the pace you see this happening at? Any idea, or it's crystal ball stuff?
I mean, there's areas that work well now. There's areas that need a little bit more price growth.
Yeah.
But typically, and anyone who's heard us talk over the years would understand that we often target the upper half of the middle of the market. It's very difficult for developers to make money in the bottom part of the market, in those, shall I say, low sort of socioeconomic areas. Very difficult to make any development profit in those areas. Then you've got the big part, the middle of the market. Then you've got the top end of the market.
We can do the why on that. The why is because construction is construction no matter what you do. So you're still paying the same. You might be putting higher spec and paying more, but you still got to pay for that.
Yeah.
And that's why.
Yeah, that's why. And also when you get into that bottom part of the top of the market, there's a bit of value in there in that the people that buy that product generally don't measure it down to the last square meter and work out what it should be worth. A lot of it's bought with ego. A lot of it is in the owner occupier space. And if you get the right product, the right standard of spec, the right look, you can get some extra profit in your projects. But it's got to be spot on because the purchasers in that space are discerning, mostly owner occupiers. The safe place to be, and always has been, in the top half of the middle of the market. And that's going to have a different dollar value everywhere you go. So it's no good me sprouting,
go here, go
unit
there.
prices or townhouse prices because it's going to vary.
So, and really, we're just going to come back to you're going to have to know what you're doing. So a lot of the people that have just given it a go in the past, the give it a go people might not be so lucky.
It's never been more important than now than to really know what you're doing.
Yeah.
There's been some times in the past where you can make mistakes and sort of half get away with it and stumble your way through. Never a good plan anyway. But these days you've got to really be educated. You've got to know what you're doing. You've got to know how to choose those areas and how to infiltrate them and how to get your numbers really right. And
when you do understand, you're not bumbling as well. It's your process is faster because you know what you're doing to move forward rather than just wondering. Yep. So there it is. We're going to say it again. Education is vital, and even more so now.
Yeah, because a lot of people don't make when they purchase a site, they don't know it's not a good site for quite a while.
No,
because let's say somebody doesn't really know how to do the feasibility, doesn't know how to do the numbers correctly. They've done a set of numbers that they sort of think are right, but they've never been educated on it. It looks good. They buy a site. They get a development permit. Hopefully they get a good one because just getting any old development permit is no good. Let's hope they at least get everything designed for what the market wants. But what will happen eventually, when it comes construction time, they have to get construction finance. That's when it really has to stack up. When you get construction finance, that's when the valuers will be, hard on it. That's when the financiers will want to know what the margin is. And if you made a mistake at the beginning, you might not find out until then that, your construction price that you had in there was way too low, or your sale prices were way too high, or you just left a lot of costs out because you didn't know. And what you thought was a good deal when you bought the site, now, all the chickens come home to roost. I think that's the same. And And that's when they can find out. And
And
it can be a not pleasant experience.
And that's sort of one part, but then there's still the other due diligence parts, as in, what the market really requires, just knowing all of that stuff and the specs and how much you need to
Yeah,
spend and
and
what's
not
happening.
over specifying.
Yeah, and not
Or
under.
even worse,
Yeah, under. Yeah, so just getting all that right. So we're talking the future of property development, saying, before we move to AI for a bit, saying that there are still plenty of opportunities out there.
Yeah.
You just need to know what you're doing. And
Got to be a bit more discerning these days, I feel.
yes. Okay, Bob, let's talk AI. How
Ooh.
do you see that happening and, moving forward within property
Yeah.
development? I mean, for me, I had a big chat
Yeah.
with Aaron, who's part of our team, and we were just talking about it this afternoon.
He's pretty much over AI, isn't he?
Yeah, he's the AI, he's the
He's the
AI
AI
guy.
guy.
Yeah, he's. I mean, we all use it for different things. I mean, everyone does. If you're using
You use it
Siri,
sometimes not knowing you're using it.
oh yes, we all use it without realizing, but how far it's going when it comes to property development. And in his comments that they were in the design phase, it was really it's moving very quickly.
That's where he sees a lot of advancement.
Yeah.
In the design. So at the moment, we've got building designers and architects, and we use for our design, if you like, of our townhouses or our duplexes or whatever. And Aaron's seeing that there's going to be a big move towards AI in that design space. Might take a little while.
He thinks it's coming faster than you think.
Coming faster.
Yeah,
Well,
that's
everything
probably
in AI comes faster than you think, doesn't it?
Yeah. So that's one thing, and probably really reducing the requirement for those people in positions. And then the other thing we spoke about was, and if you think about it, just the technology in the buildings being like really high specifications, and that's something else that's moving quite quickly. But becoming what would you call it, AI ready almost. Like the buildings have a lot of artificial intelligence capabilities, I suppose, is what I'm after.
Yeah, we've seen little bits and pieces of that, in the last few years.
Smart buildings. I knew I'd written it down. That's right, smart buildings.
Yeah, I think we're only seeing the tip of what we consider to be a smart building at the moment. Might be a dumb building in 2 or 3 years' time.
Well, we've got some smart buildings under development now, don't we? Yeah. Look at me asking, don't we?
Yeah, well, they are fairly smart. Yeah, but I mean that takes all forms. Commercial buildings, industrial buildings as well, but also even in like something like
homes.
Well, yeah, homes. Well, homes definitely, but and student accommodation, those sorts of things too. Where they want state of the art high tech, but yeah, it's on an exponential curve upwards.
We were all even talking about with robots taking over workplaces. You go down to your local RSL and a robot's going to bring you your meal, and that started during COVID. It's kind of a weird thing, but they're taking over the packing at Amazon and all sorts of things. So there's that sort of smart. If you're looking at that end of town,
they got probably the smartest warehousing and storage buildings in the world. Amazon, I mean, they can well afford it too.
Yeah,
the way they distribute, you're right. I mean, there's less people and more robots doing that work.
But and then back to housing, just even standard housing. I think what's coming our way pretty quickly are some very smart buildings.
Reminds me of when I was a young kid, the Jetsons.
Yes.
It was funny when that was for those of you that don't know, it was sort of a cartoon-based thing of a futuristic family living in the sky and all the things they have. A lot of them we've been around for quite a few years now. I think that thing was probably made in the 60s, I reckon, that cartoon.
But yeah, a lot of the things that we've still got a lot to go if we to match the Jetsons. Yeah. Just another thing too, Bob, with the future is the marketing. House marketing will be a lot more personalised because as AI gets better, more about us is on the internet or more about us is easier to find out. So they'll be able to target market. There'll be a lot more.
There's a fair bit of that happens now, but it's going to be even way more refined.
Oh, yes, that will
and
a space that's definitely growing.
Yeah.
Yeah. And there's going to be, and that's a good thing. You're out looking for a house and you get the one you want. And
get your perfect house, even if you're not sure. AI will tell you.
Yeah. So somebody will tell you that. So there is definitely a movement forward, and how fast that progresses. Definitely design coming along first, and then the
The
smart
smartness, the
buildings.
fit outs,
Yeah.
all that.
And
Yeah.
I wonder how, we haven't even gone down the eco road, and I didn't put it down in my notes to even look. But I mean, where smart crosses over with eco, or eco
Yeah,
friendly,
yeah, yeah.
crikey, there'll be some that will actually be very useful if you think about it. I bet you there's some very excited people out there who are, in that development
Yeah,
space. That will be,
yeah, yep.
something.
It'll be a combination. I mean, a house in 20 years' time is going to be no resemblance to a house today. It
No,
will be like I made the joke of before, the cave,
yeah.
the house in the cave.
It'd be like the Jetsons. Oh, you mean the difference between
The
the house and the
difference,
cave
yeah,
and where we are now to what we're heading
yeah,
to?
yeah.
Well, I don't know if it's going to be that quick. 20 years? I don't know.
No, I'm not saying the Jetsons. I'm
No.
saying if you compared it, and you can't, but if you compared a house in 20 years' time to the house we've got today,
Yeah. Be
they're
nothing
going to
like
be
it.
very different.
Yes.
Very different to the houses we have today.
So, but what we do need is developments happening because we have a massive housing shortage. So, Bob, where we see the future of property development is it is strong.
It's strong.
Uh,
Market's strong. All the indicators are strong. And I mean, an undersupply nationally. Not necessarily an undersupply in every suburb of Australia. You've got to be a little bit, use the word discerning again. Some areas can get a little bit overheated. But generally speaking, if you're talking about the whole of the market, it is very much undersupplied nationally. It has been for a long time. And we're part of the solution. And
yes.
particularly our smaller developers, not just the big guys.
Yeah, we can think of ourselves as the solution. So, I think what we're saying really is that if we were to wrap up, that, yeah, not everything works. You've got to do your due diligence, and we've talked about that a few times. There are things that are working, there are things that aren't, and it depends on the areas you're looking as to what's working and what's not. And if it's not, it's time to change patch.
Yeah, but nothing's permanent. That's one of the
Yes, nothing's
lovely
permanent.
things about property development is it's fluid and it's always changing. So you could have an area at the moment that's not quite stacking up, and okay, well, I won't look here anymore. I'll look at that patch over there. It seems to be working. It doesn't mean in 12 months or 18 months you go back there and that patch which you discarded as not being profitable enough could easily be profitable in 12 or 18 months because the market's dynamic and it's moving all the time. So
And the good news about that is you've got all that prior information because you've
yeah,
done your due diligence.
I've seen that happen
there.
with a couple of people in our mentoring program. They're now going back to look at areas that they looked at 12, 18 months ago that weren't quite there, and they're saying now, oh, they're starting to look like they might be just tipping into producing enough profit.
Yeah, how good's that? So I think the takeaways are: don't be. What does that say? What's his Warren Buffett? When others are fearful, be greedy. When others are greedy, be fearful. It's probably a good time to think about doing property development because a lot of the media is doing a great job at scaring people to death. So that's perfect.
Well, yeah, on and off. Even they're probably tamed down a bit.
I'll have that.
Oh well, during all the interest rate rises, of course, they love to wheel out the all the unfortunate situations. But yeah, no, it's good for all those reasons. All the big markers are looking good. National shortage, but interest rates, like I said, plateaued. Bill costs settled down. All those things are happening. Sale prices, picking up. All last year they picked up, but just very incrementally, just very small. I think we'll see some larger rises in the next 18 months. So everything's perfect. But remember, with property development, you don't sort of, it doesn't happen tomorrow.
No.
So if you go out there and buy a site today, it could be 18 months, 2 years before you sell that product.
Exactly.
And so, it's not just today. And in my opinion, it'll be even better then. But if it's going to be even better then, you need to get in now.
Yeah. And remember, do your homework. And if you're not educated, go to Property Mastermind. We sell fabulous courses. You have to know what you're doing. That's a big takeaway from this. And a lot of the mums and dads that just gave it a go, or the guy used to be a builder and thought he'd give it a go, or the electrician or the plumber or whatever, the hairdresser who thinks I'm going to be a property developer now, you do need to know what you're doing because it's a bit scary if you don't. and anything can happen. So, Bob, let's wind this one up. Not too long today. Clocking out at it, and I'm thinking, just a reminder that this Saturday at 9 a.m. we've got our masterclass. We'd love for you to join us.
Free masterclass.
That's the 22nd. Yeah, it's free on the 22nd of June. And also, we've still got a few tickets, not many, left for our joint ventures event in Sydney. And there is information about, I'll put a link below about that, back to our website anyway, propertymastermind.com.au. So if you want to have a look at that, learning how to raise money, use other people's money, pair up with people, put projects together, all sorts of things. It's a 2-day fully catered event if you're interested in learning about that one. But as I did say, we are on limited numbers now, so you won't want to waste your time. Anyway, we hope to see you on Saturday, and we will catch you next week with episode 155. That's exciting.
Oh, here we go.
All right.
200 coming up.
All right, see you then. Bye for now.